Hello, my friends in film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching. Thank you for giving us a little bit of your time. You, computer hiccup to start the day. Isn't that usually how it goes when it's here on the Hard Truth? But, you know, fear not, we're planning to get a new computer in place. It's going to be awesome when it gets here. But until then, I'm not entirely sure where Lady Cora is. Hopefully she'll be popping on at some point tonight. If not, me and Tex got this covered. We got obviously there's some great Disney stuff that me and Tex can talk about. I mean, clearly more so than Texas Chainsaw Massacre or Friday the 13th or any of the nonsense slasher films.
You know, those are just...
Yeah. Clearly, the Princess Diaries has been one of those things that has shaped his life.
Well, if anybody knows me, they know Princess Bride or Diaries, whatever the hell this is my favorite thing ever. So I'm the guy to talk to about this, you know. So what's up, Frank? Hope you're doing well, man.
Doing all right. For those of you who are wondering, yes, we were supposed to have our Black Panther spoiler discussion tonight, but despite the fact that for a week and a half now, I said it's going to be on this date, Jeremy decided to go buy tickets to go see it tonight, as opposed to seeing any point over the last 3 or 4 days. So we're actually pushing that back to Thursday. That's going to be the Thursday show where you would normally see us talk about stuff like this. And I threw a few stories together tonight for all of us to come and hang out and have some fun with. I think it's going to be worth it. I was kind of hoping to have Cora around for at least these first two, but hey, you know, we'll be all right. I think we'll do. We'll figure it out. But so again, going to be some news stories tonight. Thursday, there's going to be one news story that I'm saving for Jeremy because I know it's going to be important for him to talk about, and then we're going to get into the Black Panther spoiler review. Plenty to say about Black Panther. We're going to get to that on Thursday. But for right now, we're talking about some other stuff. Before we get to all the cool stuff that we're talking about tonight, don't forget that we do have a Patreon, and I clicked the wrong one.
Yes.
And if you go support us on Patreon for just $5 a month, you get a chance to win $25 in free movie tickets every month. Now, what this is for just getting people promoted to go out there and go back to the movies. We're at a full filming schedule, a full release schedule. Movies are back. The pandemic is we're pretty much near the end of it if we're not done with it already. It's time to go back out there and support one of the industries that was so badly decimated by the pandemic over the last couple of years. We will be giving away. I want to do one this week, but I didn't get anything set up. So I'm still in the process of moving in and getting everything together. But next week we'll be giving away $25 for free movie tickets. So go join us on Patreon for $5 a month. You get entered for a chance to go do that. Now we're gonna start with a little something different today. I thought we would do like this thing where we go back in time, look at the box office from several years ago, just to look at some of the movies that were out right now. So that's what we're gonna do to start the show off. We'll probably do this once a month or so, just for shits and giggles, things like that. So this is where we're going to start. So we're going to call it This Week in Box Office History. This is it's actually not 2022. It's 20 years ago. I don't know why I put 2022 on that graphic, but it's actually 2002. And tonight, that's where we're going to go, 20 years ago. Let's see. We've got the second chapter of the Harry Potter franchise, The Chamber of Secrets. That led the way with $106 million, followed by the Eminem semi-biopic 8 Mile. The holiday sequel, The Santa Claus 2, came in third. The horror film, The Ring, came in fourth. And Steven Seagal's action film, Half Past Dead, made up the top 5. Some of the others in the top 20 this week, 20 years ago, were Jackass the Movie, the rom-com Sweet Home Alabama, Ghost Ship, and Red Dragon. Now, Tex, I'll ask you which of these films from 20 years ago in the box office stood out to you. I can imagine I know which ones they are, but what are some of your thoughts on what the box office looked like 20 years ago today?
Well, 20-year younger Tex would have been there for Jackass the Movie because I was all about that back in the day. The Ring is an instant classic. Well, of course, it's the knockoff of The Ringu, the original, but the American version of The Ring. That's normally Asian horror is not my thing, but that was a very good film. And Ghost Ship, kind of an underrated movie, not quite cult status, but a solid. I think Dark Castle Entertainment made that film, I believe, and basically Dark Castle was they were a studio that was made to basically remake all of Vincent Price's old black and white films, and I think Ghost Ship was one of those that was made by that production company. But either way, yeah, those three really stood out because I guarantee you, as much as I love Jackass the show back in the day, I don't know if I saw it in the theater or not, but that's just a great film to even go back and watch now. So there's some solid stuff in there though. I don't remember Steven Seagal having a top 5 box office 20 years ago. That really surprised me.
Well, it was 20 years ago when he was still relevant, so it was entirely possible.
But
I'm not gonna lie. I won't lie to you. Well, he was relevant for a long time, like in the.
Well, yeah,
in the
relevant,
90s.
but box office relevant. I don't know.
This was about the time that his career was starting to hit kind of the end, because this was
Yeah,
the time
I
when he
guess.
became a little bit more of a joke.
Yeah.
But yeah, the one of the ones that stood out to me, it's like you said, is Ghost Ship is a highly underrated horror film.
It is. It's a solid film.
I can enjoy that movie from start to finish, and it was interesting because you got Gabriel Byrne, who he doesn't exactly play a bad guy. He's just one of the people that's in the movie. He plays the devil better than anybody else I've ever seen on camera. Gabriel Byrne's played the devil, I think, 3 or 4 times.
I don't know. Him or the guy from the Constantine film are my favorite devils. I love those 2 guys.
I think a couple of the times he was even Oscar worthy. I think one he may have gotten nominated.
Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I'm not sure. He is just so good. He actually doesn't play a bad guy in this. He's just part of this crew that goes out and finds these derelict ships and tries to claim them for salvage rights or whatever. And he ends up kind of part of the chaos that's going on the ship. And also you got Julia Margulies, who at the time she was really only known for like ER. So it's like the dramatic TV stuff. I mean, yeah, you kind of expect her to be in stuff like that, but see her do kind of like a straight up horror movie. What was kind of odd for her. I mean, she's always done like the drama and stuff on TV, but see her do a horror movie, she was actually very, very good. And the suspense of it all, I thought was fantastic. I think it was a great movie.
Ghost Ship. Did you ever see the remake 13 Ghost with the guy that played Monk? I can't remember his name now.
Yeah.
That's very much like that 13 Ghost movie. It's like made in a very similar vein. I think Dark Castle may have made that one too, but it was like, because horror in the 90s besides Scream was kind of dead. So with you had a boom in the early 2000s of films like this. Then you got to like the remakes of the slashers and stuff. And Ghost Ship, it's one that if you haven't seen, you should definitely go back and watch. It's a solid film, like Frank was saying. I like it.
And also Red Dragon, which at this point, 20 years ago, had already been in theaters for a while, but it was a solid sequel to Silence of the Lambs, a remake in and of itself of the film Manhunter from the 80s, which I actually think is a very, very good film. And if you haven't seen that, I think you should. That Manhunter was actually made before you actually see Brian, or who was it? I'm drawing a blank now. Not Albert
for which
Brian,
one?
Who was it? It's called Manhunter. It's actually the first Hannibal Lecter movie, but this was before.
I don't think I've seen that.
Oh, I think the
first
one. It's got William Peterson from CSI. He's the one that plays the FBI guy who's looking for the killer.
I've seen Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon. I saw Hannibal.
Yeah.
I don't think I saw Mindhunter. I don't think I saw that one.
Yeah, it's based on the book.
Okay.
But Hannibal Lecter is in it. I forget. It's not Ronnie Cox. I forget who it is. But somebody played Hannibal Lecter before Sir Anthony Hopkins got a hold of it, believe it or not. And it is actually a very, very good movie.
Wow.
So
I couldn't imagine anybody but Anthony Hopkins in that role. I mean, he is synonymous with that role. That is him. I mean, to me at least, anyways, and to a lot of people.
And, I've got to say, Half Past Dead was probably one of the last decent films that Seagal made. It's kind of set in this weird. It's set in this weird. I don't know if it's future or something like that, or maybe just like an alternate present day where Alcatraz has been turned back into a prison, and there's an execution that's about to happen.
I think I've seen that one. That sounds really familiar.
And somebody busts in to get the guy out right before he's executed, and Seagal's there for whatever reason. I don't know if he's an inmate or a cop or he's undercover or something. I forget what it was. But the whole movie is actually, it was a fun action romp. I mean, it was one of those movies where you just turn your brain off, set your face full of popcorn, and enjoy the ride. I remember that being like his last decent movie. I don't know if that came out. I think that came out after things like Exit Wounds, which I actually really like. I thought Exit Wounds was one.
Exit Wounds is a good film, yeah. I like that.
It was right about that time where he was having a little bit of a career resurgence right before it all just went off the cliff.
That was his last time in the sun before he was reduced to Russia, basically.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. But yeah, that was fun. And then of course, the Jackass movies. I mean, I've come to appreciate Jackass over the years, but I absolutely hated Jackass for the longest time. I could not for the life of me understand why Beavis and Butthead got kicked off the air for being a cartoon that fried worms,
right.
but Steve-O could shove a firecracker up his ass, and that's okay. Like a week later, I never understood. Honestly, that was the point where I was done with MTV. I mean, I was fledgling. I was one of the last of the OG MTV.
You were holding on with both hands, yeah.
I was like, maybe they'll figure out what MTV is supposed to be. And then as soon as that happened, I was like, yeah, I'm done. I checked out MTV almost exactly that moment. I haven't gone back since. But I mean, obviously Harry Potter. I mean, that whole thing.
Oh, well, that goes without saying. I think everybody likes Harry Potter. Hell, I love Harry Potter. I mean, it's something that I've got to enjoy with my children, and like that was one of the bright spots of going to Universal was getting to do the Harry Potter ride. We love the hell out of that.
So one of the things that I've always liked about the Harry Potter franchise is the storylines and the way they put the movies together mature along with the audience. So the first couple of movies are very much kind of kid movies. But you get to the point in Goblet of Fire, like when Cedric Diggory dies.
Yes.
You almost even the color palettes of the movies from that point on are all very, very dark. It gets much more mature, much more dark and ominous. And I kind of thought to myself, I was like, that's kind of where things are going when you're at that point in your real life as a 14, 15, 16-year-old. You start things start to change in your head, and that's kind of where all this goes. But yeah. That's one of the things I mean, and Harry Potter's just fun. I mean, who doesn't like the idea of swinging a wand around and, casting spells on chicks?
Obviously, I know Harry Potter's, just like the Saw films, came out one after the other every year, basically. But when you go back and watch them all together, that's much like the original trilogy of Lord of the Rings movies. Those hold up very well over time, especially. They play very good. And it's like you said, you see the progression into the darkness. Probably my favorite ones would be the Goblet of Fire and then the very last one. Those two really stood out to me as my favorite of the Harry Potter series. But yeah, I mean, it's fun to look back, because I mean, we can all, in 2006, this was my favorite movie. But as you kind of get older, things get, years blend together, what came out when generally. And then, it's fun to look back and find out exactly when they did, so that's cool.
Yeah, but I don't know. Go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think. This week, 20 years ago, we had Harry Potter and Eminem leading the way at the box office. So go back and let me know what kind of movies that you were watching 20 years ago in the theater. It's a hell of a combo. That's not a bad box office either. I mean, the Santa Claus TV series just dropped, or I think it's about to on Disney Plus. I
think it's about to. Yeah.
So we're about to
Santa Clauses.
Santa Clauses. So yeah, that's pretty good timing considering that show's about to come on, and we're about to get some more of Tim Allen with the beard, which is going to be kind of fun, I think. There's going to be a lot of Disney, beating that dead horse for every ounce that it's got on this episode we're going to talk about tonight. So yeah. Hey, you know what? If the cash register is running, I can hardly blame them. I mean, it's the same.
Oh yeah, why not?
It's the same thing with Fast and Furious. It's like, I think those movies are turning into pure trash. But I cannot deny the fact that those people are just turning out in droves and dropping money to go see these movies. I'm like, so as long as they're making money, they're going to keep making them. I don't blame them. I mean, the movies are trash, but I don't blame them for making money. I mean, money's what makes the world go around. You know what I mean?
If I paid millions and millions of dollars for a property, I'd milk it too. But hey, what the hell? If people are paying for it, let's do it. So what the hell?
No doubt at all. But, get on the comments below. Let us know what you guys think of what the box office looked like 20 years ago. Now on to something else. One of Tex's favorite people in the whole wide world to talk about. That's Jamie Lee Curtis. Following her comeback to the Laurie Strode character, Jamie Lee Curtis is now eyeing a return to a slightly less bloody role. The actress said in an interview recently that she has had discussions with Lindsay Lohan, of all people, about a sequel to their Disney hit Freaky Friday, and the House of Mouse seems interested as well. Freaky Friday was released in 2003 and made a decent $161 million against a $26 million budget, and is considered the big break for Lindsay Lohan. The film itself is a remake of the 1976 film starring Jodie Foster and is based on a series of books written by Mary Rogers. Tex, again, we're right in your wheelhouse with some of this Disney girly stuff. What do you think of Freaky Friday coming back as a sequel? We're going to get more Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis.
I'm going to try to take a positive spin on this because everybody who's watching this knows my thoughts on the Miss Activia yogurt commercial over here. But Lindsay Lohan, Everybody knows the struggles and the issues that she's had. Like we talked about Aaron Carter, kind of growing up in the system, having the problems that he did. Well, Lindsay Lohan was another that grew up in the spotlight, from Freaky Friday to the Herbie movies to Mean Girls and whatever. And yes, I know 3 Lindsay Lohan films. I'm not proud. But this is maybe the break she needs to kind of get back on the right track. And Freaky Friday, yes, it's a popular franchise. There's been 2 iterations of it. So, hey, this is something that the teenage girl audience, I'm sure, would like, and all their moms, I'm sure, would go see it with them too. So I got a feeling that if this were to end up in theaters, I might be taking my kids to it as well. I could see it happening. So, hey, why not? Let's do this thing. They're remaking everything else. Let's bring this shit back too.
Well, the movie was entertaining. I suppose there's.
Right.
It was good for what it was. Should it be a franchise all on its own? Probably not. It's not. I don't think
everything needs a universe, Frank. We talked about this on the last episode. Everything has to have a universe. Come on.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I said, if you could do something solid with the story and make it worthwhile, why not?
Well, what do you do with it though, besides mom and daughter switch bodies? It's been done twice already.
Well,
like where else do you go with it?
I've never read the books, but the books actually take a couple of different paths towards this whole mom and daughter learning to understand each other thing. So there's probably something you could work in there that's different from just, we argue, we both wish that we switched places than we did, and then chaos ensues. There might be something a different route you can take. But I don't know. I don't know what it is. Like I said, I've never read the books. I know one of them involves the main character and her teacher or something like that, switching places or something like that, or her brother. And then I think the final book in that series, it's the father and son that switch places. So,
they could bring in dad, and mom and dad could switch bodies and get woke points and be like, oh, well, I used to be your dad, but now I'm your mom. You know what I'm talking about? That would go over with a certain audience of fandom in this world. That would actually be funny.
But, I'm not against doing it. Look, it all comes down to story. If you can't tell a good story, then there's no point. But if they've got a story, why not? Look, I'm sure Lindsay Lohan is just scratching for any reason to get any of her
100%,
back at all. So, and Jamie Lee Curtis has always been a star. So she's pretty much just doing stuff for fun these days. I don't know that Mark Harmon would come back or not. I mean, assuming that at the end of the first movie that they got married and lived happily ever after, and maybe he's in it, maybe he's not. He's kind of wrapped up with NCIS. Well, no, he's done with NCIS now too. But I don't know. He's got his own stuff going on. So I don't know what it would entail, but why not? Like I said, it all comes down to writing a story.
Well, and it's not even just that. Now Disney has a service, a streaming service, that they need to fill up on a regular basis. So you're going to get a lot of stuff made that normally may not get a remake or another season of or whatever, to just keep you paying for that Disney Plus $20 a month, whatever it is. So that's why you're seeing a lot of products from Disney but Star Wars and Marvel go to Disney Plus streaming services, or Werewolf by Night as a Disney Plus thing. They're basically trying to just take over the Netflix spot, it seems like, for being the top streaming service. Hell, Disney Plus may be the top streaming service at this point. I'm not real sure. But, it's a family show that a lot of people enjoyed. It's got a following. So, I could see why they wanted to bring it back. And it would be kind of interesting to see if they brought back Jodie Foster into this somehow. Maybe have her play a sister or something. Kind of tie it all together. That might be kind of cool.
That'd be kind of fun. That could be a But
I know, do something different with it.
Well, Lohan recently has made a little bit of a comeback. She's in this Netflix holiday movie, Falling for Christmas. And I haven't seen it. I'm not a huge fan of the holidays. The only reason I bother putting
I watched like 3 Christmas movies, so I've never heard of it.
I watched Scrooged. with Bill Murray. I watch Die Hard, which is a Christmas movie. You can all kiss my ass. And National Lampoon's Christmas movie. The Christmas movie doesn't exist.
I'm going to leave that one alone because that's a whole different podcast we're going to get into.
We got a month. We got a month. We got a month. But yeah, it's whatever. I mean, it's, you know, like I said, if it makes money, if it's got a good story, have fun with it. You did mention something interesting though. When that first movie came out, there was no Disney Plus. There wasn't really any streaming at that point. I mean, I think Redbox and not Redbox, but Netflix maybe was just doing the mail service at that point, just barely.
What year did Jamie Lee Curtis Freaky Friday come out?
2003.
Oh,
so I think that's. Maybe a little before any of the mail services. That
was kind of in the heyday of Blockbuster still, wasn't it?
Yeah. I think we were still doing the video rental places back then. But I mean, if they keep the budget down on this, I mean, don't spend $150 million doing it. Spend like another $20 million and put it on Disney Plus. That could drive a lot of traffic to the platform, I think.
I don't see why you need a lot. I mean, I don't see a lot of CGI needing to happen here or anything else. It's not like, you know, Iron Man's going to fly into this somehow. So, I mean, I don't see why you couldn't do it for 20 million or 15 or whatever, you know. So, besides the cost to Jamie Lee Curtis, because after the Halloween Ends trilogy, God knows what her price tag is these days. But
well, I feel like it's one of those things where she might take kind of a hometown discount just to come back and do it for shits and giggles. You know what I mean? She's not hurting for money. Awesome. She's not hurting for money. She's not hurting for roles. It's like maybe she just want to do it just to do it. That if I might think of it that way if I was in her shoes, but I don't know. But
anything to stay relevant, right?
Yeah. Go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think. Would you guys go see a Freaky Friday sequel? You know what? I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. It doesn't say anything about who's writing it, but I mean, I'm intrigued at the idea of doing it. So, I mean, if she thinks it's a good enough story to come back for, if Lindsay Lohan's finally got her shit together, if we can have some fun with it, I mean, I think it's a possibility that this might be something worth watching. I mean, will it be Oscar contender? Probably not. But I mean, I think it'll be something that's worth watching. But go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think. Would you go see a sequel to Freaky Friday? Now, staying on the same thing, we're going to go to all the girly stuff that Tex loves so much.
It warms my heart.
We're going to move on to the Princess Diaries. Let's see. Of course, another Disney feel-good film may also be getting another chapter. Disney may also be sending us back to Genova for a third installment of the Princess Diaries. But while star Anne Hathaway has said she's interested in returning, neither her or her legendary co-star Julie Andrews has officially signed on. Plot details have not yet been confirmed, but insiders say it is definitely a continuation of the series and not a reboot. Tex, like I said, I'm sure this is right up on your list of favorites with all the horror stuff. What do you think of the idea of a Princess Diaries 3?
I've always had the hots for Anne Hathaway, so I'm in favor of her in this movie. Yes, please bring her back. I've never seen the original. I can't remember seeing it. If I did, it was in passing and it didn't leave a mark. I don't know. But once again, this is another Disney property that, you know, it's got star power to it. It's got a name, and it's one of those movies that, you know, it has resonated with the population ever since it came out. And, you know, there's a reason why certain properties, it seems like there's a clamoring for some, and some just get brought back because, hey, we need money. This is one that I've heard for a long time people wanted to actually see. So this, I think, if you put in theaters, I think would make some money. Once again, much like Freaky Friday, don't give it a huge budget. You know, I don't think it needs it maybe for scenery or whatever. I mean, hell, you'd have to find a castle being a princess movie, I guess. But, you know, this could do well. I mean, it really could. It's, you know, this is for a certain audience, but, you know, there's a lot of people that would go see it, I think.
Yeah, I remember liking the movies, thinking they were amusing, not loving them. I mean, but again, this is before Anne Hathaway became the giant star that she has become now. I mean, since then she's been nominated for Oscars and stuff like that. So now we're not looking at the same Anne Hathaway as we were 20-something years ago when these movies came out. But
I think, yeah.
But to me, it's like, for one, I think you have to get Julie Andrews back in some facet. I don't know if you could do this movie without her, because her screen presence gives these movies a little bit of gravitas that I don't think they would have had otherwise. So it's like, because you have her, you have the Mary Poppins energy that she brings. Obviously, she's the Queen of Genova, things like that. So I think her being around would be very, very important for a third one. If she's not around, I think that takes a lot out of it, because it's not that Anne Hathaway can't carry a film. She's done it a bunch of times since, but there's a chemistry, there's an action that happens between those two as granddaughter and grandmother that kind of helps that film work. And I don't know if it's quite there without her. I mean, there's plenty of stuff you could do story-wise. I mean, as I recall in the last movie, it was all about her getting married before she takes the throne. And she ends up just saying, screw it, I'm not going to get married, and just takes the throne anyway. So, I mean, maybe there's still some search for a husband that could be played out in the story. I don't know.
I think I saw on Twitter recently that Anne Hathaway was 39 or 40 years old. So maybe her daughter is kind of the new upcoming, like, if you wanted to target more of a younger demographic, Anne Hathaway's daughter is the new princess in the Princess Diaries or whatever. And I mean, there's a lot of ways you can do it. Obviously, you know, Julie Andrews, Mary Poppins needs to be there. I don't know what movies she's making these days, but I got a feeling she'd probably come back for this. And there's a lot you can do royalty-wise. Obviously, we know the Queen just died, and everybody cared about that for some odd reason here in America. So, hey, they'll probably dig this shit too. I don't see why they wouldn't. What the hell?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe there is a little bit, because the royal family's been in the news so much the last several weeks. Maybe there is. Now, I'm not saying that they won't be in the news, 2 years from now when we actually get this thing on the screen. But I mean, there is a rekindled interest in royalty now with a lot of stuff going on in the UK. So maybe maybe this is when the iron is going to be the hottest it's ever going to be to strike with the third one.
Now, do they? If they couldn't get Julie Andrews back, maybe they do have her, because the Queen just died, right? Have her as the Queen passes away, and this is picking up after that or something, a transference of power in their struggle. I don't know what you can do with it, but if you wanted to play off of, semi-fresh news, you could go some route with that. There's a story there to be told. But, odds are Disney, they, with them liking to go to the younger appeal, I could see a younger princess being brought in as Anne Hathaway's daughter or something or whatever.
I want to see them get more dramatic. I want to see her dealing with, like, the Russian invasion of the Ukraine. I want to see her dealing with the pandemic. I want to see her dealing with inflation. I mean, come on. We've had enough of this rom-com shit. It's like, if you're going to be the queen of the country, you got to deal with shit like this. I want to see her actually do queen work.
They need to create like a knockoff Vladimir Putin that is like always shirtless on horseback, and he's riding into the castle or something.
He's rolling, like, hey.
Have him riding a bear or something. Like, that's the villain of the movie. Just make fun of them. Do something with it. That'd be great. You could do like a knockoff Putin, a knockoff Trump. Just make fun of all of it. Just get that comedy aspect.
That'd
be great. Yeah. I can see them doing something. Hell, that's what I'd do with it.
That would be kind of fun. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's a lot of it's all going to depend on the story. But one thing I like though about this and Freaky Friday is that this is what Disney has always done their bones. These kinds of movies is where Disney has always seemed to hit home runs. They kind of can do no wrong. These kind of coming of age, transitionary kind of things. I feel like this is where Disney has always been kind of a step above everybody else. So that gives me a lot of hope. But again, to me, it comes back to the story. Is the story going to be good enough to carry? How involved is Julie Andrews going to be? Are they going to try to do some woke stuff with it? Because if they do, it's going to kind of ruin the fantasy appeal of it all to me.
It's Disney that they can't do anything non-woke. They will just look at what they did to Hulk and Thor. I mean, they just woke them up to shit. There's no way they're not going to do it with this.
Well, it's one thing to have some inclusivity. It's another thing to like saturate it with inclusivity for the sake of inclusivity. And that's the mistake that Disney's been making, in my opinion, with a lot of stuff lately. Is they can't just tell a good story about an interesting person or character, it's like they have to push this other stuff that's going on in the real world. And I'm like, I go to movies to escape the real world for a couple hours. I don't want to hear about the LGBT community. I don't want to hear about oppression. I don't want to hear any of that shit. Well, I want to be entertained for a couple hours away from the craziness that goes on in the world that I see in the news. And if they can avoid that and just kind of make it a goofy fantasy romp, then it'll work. It'll work for me anyway. I mean, I'll probably enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the other two. But if they try too hard to push some agenda, it's just going to be like, whatever.
Well, you can go back to even the 60s and you know, that they were putting social commentary into movies, but they were smart about it. They didn't beat you over the head with it. I don't know if they think the modern audience is too stupid to understand it, or they just have to keep preaching it to make themselves feel better. But nowadays, the story is only there to service whatever agenda they're talking about in that film or TV show, where it should be the opposite. You should focus on your story, and then if you can fit it in, put in your cause of the week, whatever you're worried about. But you know, that's the world that we live in these days, unfortunately. So, hey,
True.
You know, hopefully it goes well. I mean, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, but anyway, go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think. Are you interested in seeing Princess Diaries 3? I think it could be fun. I think there's a couple of different angles you could go with it. You could complete a couple of storylines that were maybe kind of left a little open and ambiguous in the second movie. I think it's doable. I think it's fun. I mean, I still have daughters that are young enough to enjoy movies like that. So as long as they're still young enough to enjoy movies like that, go ahead and make it. It'll give me a good reason to take them to the theater because they don't generally go to the theater.
There you go.
But they don't go watch them. I can't take them to the theater to see Terrifier. It's not really their
Yeah, I don't think they want to see Art the Clown pour bleach into back wounds. I don't think the daughters would be interested in that, unfortunately.
Yeah, not a whole lot of that. But go to the comments below. Let us know what you guys think about the potential for a Princess Diaries 3. And now moving on to something that is more in Tex's wheelhouse. Again, I tortured him with the princess stuff for a little while. But
I'm putting in the work, damn it. I'm putting in the work.
But now we're gonna do something else. Exorcist fans not warm to the idea of a reboot may or may not feel any better about this. Star Leslie Odom Jr. said recently that the film will be, quote, really scary, but some fans aren't very optimistic.
Quote, really scary.
Director David Gordon Green's Halloween series and a shaky string of Exorcist sequels and spinoffs have many fans weary of what this movie will bring. For what it's worth, Ellen Burstyn will be reprising her role from the original film, which is expected to hit theaters in 2023. Tex, we're in some pretty deep waters for you with the Exorcist film. What do you think of an Exorcist reboot?
I love The Exorcist. Obviously, this is, you know, I'm in the majority on that. This is probably the greatest scary film ever made. It's, you know, they've tried a million times to redo The Exorcist in different forms with different variety and different variations. Some have been good, some don't even bother, and some are just like, oh, I didn't even know that came out. But David Gordon Green, man, I used to love this guy. I mean, he's a Texas filmmaker from my area. He's, you know, when he did Halloween 18 and Kills, I was a huge fan. I thought, okay, it made me so happy to have a Texan making Halloween films. But then Halloween Ends comes out, and everything that he said and everything that he's done, and then to just jump right into The Exorcist and have it say, quote, it's going to be really scary. You shouldn't have to tell me The Exorcist is going to be scary. When you see a little girl possessed on a bed, doing herself with a crucifix saying, let Jesus Christ fuck you. What more can you do here? I mean, I know it's been remade. I know there's been sequels. There was 2 movies, and then there was a TV show, which, by the way, if you haven't seen the Exorcist TV show that was on Fox some years ago, go check that out because it's actually pretty good, and it's a good sequel to the original. But I'm very worried about these. Now, did they say film or trilogy? Because initially they said it was going to be a trilogy of Exorcist films.
What they're talking about in this article is a film. Not to say that they don't have plans.
Okay, so that's why I was like, wait a minute, because when they first announced that David Gordon Green would be leading this up during press tour of Halloween Ends, I believe. And this is, I don't think you need 3 films to tell a good Exorcist story. I mean, there's only so much you can do. But assuming it's just one film, because this is all we know right now, I don't know if this is going to work. I'm telling you right now, this is going to be as divisive as Halloween's Ends was, and I'm going to go watch it. I'm not going to see it, but I'm keeping my expectations very low just because you're trying to redo the greatest horror film of all time, and it's David Gordon Green. You know, I don't know much about the stars. I couldn't tell you, but I don't think a lot's going to come from this. That's what worries me.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Exorcist, if you ask any
right,
not even just horror fans, any real cinephiles, what's the best horror movie ever made? Exorcist is at the top of a lot of people's lists, including my own. I know that I said my personal favorite horror film was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but by far the biggest mindfuck I've ever seen.
Same thing. Yeah.
I mean that's one of the very few movies that has ever unsettled me deep inside. But if you draw the list of pros and cons, there's a couple of things on the pro side that weigh in its favor for me. Number one, I liked the first Halloween movie of the recent trilogy. I thought that was a really good movie. Second one, not so much. Third one, well, we talked about that. You guys can go watch our review on the third one. So, but and so there's aspects of this that I think are positive. The one thing that is in the con list for me, the one thing that doesn't sit very well with me, is Green had rejected the idea of having William Friedkin return as a producer. And William Friedkin is the one who directed the original film.
The original,
and it's not like Friedkin didn't want to come back. He rejected the idea of having him come back. Now, from one point of view, I can kind of see it where it's like, I don't really want the guy who created this thing standing over my shoulder trying to readjust what I'm trying to create. So as a creator, I can get it. But at the same time, that's the original artist. That's the guy who created this whole thing. That's like me making a Star Trek movie and not wanting Gene Roddenberry around to help guide me while I'm telling the story. This whole thing exists because of him. I mean, I know now Exorcist is based on a book, right? I think I recall that.
Yes.
So I mean, maybe he didn't write the book, but he's the one who brought the book to life on film, on celluloid, that has had such an impact on filmmaking over the last 40 years. Why wouldn't you want that guy around, at least in a consulting role? I don't get it. If you look,
if you know anything about how the original was made, because the book was written by William Peter Blatty, was the man who wrote the book. And initially he wanted to direct the film. I believe he even wrote the script. I'm pretty sure. But him and Friedkin hated each other. I think they hated each other till Peter Blatty died. I believe he passed away. I'm not 100% on that. But that movie is synonymous for those two. They just despised each other as much as they humanly possibly could. And William Friedkin, the man who directed the film, he's one of the more controversial filmmakers. Like, for instance, on set, to get the shot of Reagan where she jerks her head sideways to look over here, he literally fired a live gun in the set and didn't tell her it was going to happen to just scare her that much. There's a documentary about Friedkin making The Exorcist. It's on Shudder app, I know. I can't remember the name of it, but y'all can go look for it. But Friedkin himself, he's a very polarizing figure. He's one of those that he thinks very highly of himself, because in that whole 2.5-hour documentary, he just talks about himself. That's literally all he does. So I could see him being on set problematic. And, I don't know. His really only success was The Exorcist, so I could see him trying to kind of take control on things. I'm not sure I'd want him there either if I'm doing a remake, but that's just me. I don't know.
Yeah, You know, most people who are even just cinephiles, people who love movies but don't like horror, will still put The Exorcist in some
Right.
of their top 5 and top 10 of all
Well,
time. That's how significant that movie is. So, and that leads to the question of, and again, how do you decide what to remake? Because
right.
to me, if you're going to remake something, everything's open to a remake. I don't mind if you try it, because either it's great and I have another great movie I can enjoy, or it sucks and I can always go back to the original and enjoy that movie all as much as I always have. But if you're going to remake something, especially something that a lot of people really liked, like The Exorcist, then you have to be able to add something pretty significant to it to give it a different dimension, to give it a different level of depth. Now, maybe now when you're talking about movies from the early '70s, maybe it's some graphics, some CGI stuff, or some visual effects. Maybe it's something like that they didn't have back in 1973. But I think it's going to take a little bit more than that, even for a movie like this, because this movie was so mentally exhausting in so many ways that it's not just about making the pea soup that she vomits look more real. It's about it's about making us feel it in a much different way. You know what I mean?
Well, The Exorcist to this day is like, I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not, but people always tell you, don't ever buy a used copy of The Exorcist because it brings demons into your house. Like, that film still has that stigma attached to it. And it's not because it has huge CGI effects or not. It's probably one of the slower burn horror films. It's definitely on the top of that list. But the first 45 minutes of this movie, it's just a movie about a mother and a daughter, and the daughter's having problems. But once it picks up hardcore. And I don't know what else you can add to it. Yeah, you can add CGI to something, but I think The Exorcist is on that list of movies, like with Jaws or something else, that you're never going to do any better with. Sure, you can remake it. It's like you said, you can, technically everything's up for remake if you can afford the rights to it. But is it going to be better? Is it going to be different enough? And I don't know what they can do to make that film any scarier. And with the jaded horror audience like myself, I don't get scared. The last horror movie that even spooked me a little bit was the first Paranormal Activity. That's because the first time I saw it, I was home by myself at 3 a.m. watching it on DVD. And I
the
have
best time to watch any horror movie.
Oh, it was great. Like that film actually scared me the first time I watched it. But it's just, modern horror audience are very jaded. We're used to the jump scare. We're used to the everything. And you pretty much have to just pull on a full out satanic rite in the middle of a film to make people jump these days. Now, your average movie audience will be scared, but your hardcore side, like where I'm at, you pretty much got to kill somebody and make it a snuff film and make us jump at this point. So I don't know. Like I said, I'll be there to see it. I like to support horror to make sure more horror is made, but I'm very leery because you're messing with the Cadillac, like you said. So we'll see what comes of it, but I don't know. Expectations are low.
Yeah, usually I would say I'm cautiously optimistic about something like this, but I don't know how optimistic I am, because, like I said, David Gordon Green, his recent track record of not really sticking the landing with Halloween, the fact that there's such a laundry list of Exorcist material that has come out since the original that hasn't quite hit the same way. It seems to me like maybe that this might, there's a lot going against it. It's hitting the box with 2 strikes. You know what I mean? So maybe this movie is going to be awesome. I want it to be awesome, of course, but I don't know. I'm cautiously awaiting it. I wouldn't say I'm optimistic, but I'm cautiously awaiting what some of the reviews are going to say.
I think you'll know if it's good or not, because I know this is a Universal property, because I'd have to go back and look, but I clearly remember seeing that this was going to be a trilogy that was going to Peacock. I very clearly remember reading that. So if this movie's not good, it'll go right to Peacock, and you'll know. We should have known that with Halloween Ends. God, that film's horrible. But I don't know. I don't see how you give The Exorcist to David Gordon Green. I mean, the dude, yes, he did what he did with Michael. Why are you giving him one of the other greatest films of all time? I don't. He's definitely failing upwards. I mean, I will give him that much credit. But
well, sometimes it's contractual. It's not that they gave it to him like a week ago. It's like they probably looked at the success of his first Halloween film back in 2018, and we're like, oh my God, everybody loved this film. Now we're gonna sign a contract for you to do Exorcist, and then he puts out a kind of semi stinker with Halloween Kills and kind of a really stinker with Halloween Ends. And even though I liked it, ultimately it wasn't the ending I wanted out of the franchise. That's for sure.
Oh God!
But so he throws in a couple stinkers, so now you're contractually obligated to let him take a run at The Exorcist. So, I mean, I don't know. Look, maybe he's going to hit a home run. I don't know. Maybe
it's possible. It is possible. I mean, it doesn't. If I were to suggest to anything, keep your expectations low and hope for the best. It's going to be the best way to go into this movie. And if it's bad, just go rewatch the original. That's what I'll do.
Yeah.
So
are you watching the original right before you head to the theater to see this one?
On this one, I'm not, because the first original is so good. Anything else by comparison will suck. So I would watch it afterwards if it were me. I don't know. That's just.
I like the idea of watching. What I would probably do is I'll probably watch it first. Like I'll get up, watch it, and then I'll head to the theater to go see the new one because because there's technical things about the two films that I would like to compare. Like how did they set up the shot for this scene? It's like how did they light the scene where she's in the bed and her she's being taken over by the demon in this one and that one. How do they portray these important scenes? Because I have a feeling that while there's going to be a couple of shots that are just mirrored from the original, there's probably not going to be all of them. So for the really important shots, I really want to compare those. I really want to know in my head. I want it to be fresh, the original, so I can compare those two shots side by side.
Well, see, this is what's most people don't even realize. In the first Exorcist, Reagan was not the target. She was the bait for Father Merrin. She was just cattle fed into the system. This was, I mean, because, the film opens in Afghanistan or Iraq or whatever it is. And, it's about the father and Pazuzu, the demon. The little girl is just the innocent bystander here. Her playing with the Ouija board and Captain Howdy and all that, that was just means to an end. Now she became, the star in, the second, third ones, whatever, or third one, excuse me. But, obviously, I think Father Merrin is dead. I know the mom's coming back. I don't know about Reagan if she comes back in this film or not. You almost have to have her back, though, don't you think? I mean, in some kind of role, a cameo or something. Just, I mean, if you're bringing back the mom, why wouldn't you bring back Reagan? That makes no sense to me. I don't know. It's weird.
Well, they haven't officially announced the entire cast. So maybe she is. Maybe she's not. So
I can't remember the name of the girl that played Reagan now.
I was just thinking the same thing. I'm drawing a blank on the name, and I can't figure out why. Because I know that she had turned her back on the role for a long, long time, and then eventually she just kind of came to peace with it all. But but who's? I mean, look, we're still. I would imagine they're not going to start filming this until probably the spring. And even after you start filming a movie, even one like this, you can probably not announce a casting until you're in.
They got to have the staircase from the original, though. They got to go back to that staircase. I mean, that's one of those iconic shots. You got to go back there. I don't know if the original house where the first one was filmed is still standing, but you got to go back there, or at least something that looks similar to that. There's certain things that they did in The Exorcist that need to be redone, and I would love it if they brought back that puke green pea vomit too, like the first movie. That's just one of those things. It looks like. Have you watched The Exorcist in HD or in 4K since it's came out recently?
No.
Go back and just watch that scene where Reagan is puking it up. You can almost see like the food products in it, like because the HD brings out everything in it. It's crazy how well it exposes it. It's pretty cool to see these days, but I don't know. I'll go watch it. like you said, you can watch it ahead of time, but for me, I don't need to watch it. I've seen the movie enough to know what it is. But The Exorcist is a very simple film, but there's a lot of hidden undertones. There's even like a molestation undertone where the uncle of Reagan, like at the scene where they're having the party in the house, Reagan's upstairs, and they kind of hint at it, but the uncle says, "Oh, I'll be right back," and he kind of goes up the staircase. There's a YouTube video that actually talks about it. I'll put it on my social media after the show, but there's a lot of The Exorcist is a lot like The Shining, and a lot of hidden stuff that you may not see on first viewing, but that's why it's the top of the food chain right there with Texas Chainsaw and Halloween. I mean, it's just one of those films. It's tremendous. There's no way around it.
Yeah, I'm intrigued, but I'm reserving my judgment until I start to get some more news out of this thing.
Right.
Because
yeah,
I'm not 100% sure what I think it is. Like I said, there's pros, there's cons, there's kind of equal things on either side of that list, and I don't know. I want it to be awesome because the original movie was such a significant moment in cinematic history, but at the same time, I don't know.
Well, like I said, go back and watch the Exorcist TV show that Fox made a couple of years ago. It's actually surprisingly good for regular broadcast television. They have, well, actually, I won't tell you who the character of that is because it would spoil you watching it. But just go back and watch it for yourself. It's got some good stars in it. I think they had 2 seasons of it, I believe, 2 or 3 seasons. I can't remember. But you can watch the first Exorcist and then the Fox TV show, and you can skip that 2 and 3, even though Exorcist 3 is pretty good. They've made a lot of Exorcist stuff, and they've made a million other possession movies since. So that's big shoes to fill. If you say,
Linda Blair is the girl that played
Linda Blair, there you go. Yeah, I'm an idiot for not knowing that. I'm publicly chastising myself.
Out of my brain.
Yeah, Linda Blair. I know she's still alive. She runs a dog shelter. Like she does a dog rescue there in Southern California. So maybe she can come back.
I thought she still did a little bit of acting.
I don't know about acting. I know for a lot of years, she wouldn't even talk about Exorcist. Like you said, she was running from it because, Exorcist is one of those cursed films. And I think she had stalkers and people coming after her. I know the church community even was like coming after her for playing the role that she did, for glorifying Satan and all this other stuff. So, 2022, 2023, it's a different time period, but for Linda Blair you got to get her back in some shape, especially if you're going to have her mom in the film. So I don't know. I mean, maybe a small cameo, maybe you save her put her in the sequel bait. I don't know, do something with it, but I don't know. The Exorcist is so good in so many ways, and it's just one of those things.
Let's see, 2006, 2010. She, let's see, some TV stuff. Let's see. Yeah, not a whole lot. She's done some like web series and stuff like that. She was in Supernatural a little bit.
She was in Supernatural. Who did she play in Supernatural?
In 2006, she guest starred in the CW television series Supernatural, playing the part of Detective Diana Ballard, as she aids Sam and Dean Winchester in the episode The Usual Suspects, which aired November 9, 2006. In 2008, she appeared in the 18th annual Malaga Fantasy and Horror Film Festival to accept a Lifetime Achievement Award for her work in the horror genre.
I can't remember. I loved Supernatural. I've seen the whole series. Hell, I got to meet the Winchesters at Dallas Comic-Con one year. I don't remember her in the Supernatural show. That's interesting. I have to go back and look that up. That's crazy.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
She hasn't acted. I mean, she's done stuff, but her career has definitely not been her priority. I
Well,
mean, she's just concentrated on the philanthropical stuff.
I mean, but hell, at Spirit Halloween this year, they had one of those animatronics that you could put in your front yard of Reagan from The Exorcist, of made up to look just like her when she's possessed. That's how iconic she is to this series. And I mean, you feel so bad for her in the first film because she's just this sweet little kid, and then she ends up with this cracked open, skinned all messed up face, and literally got the devil inside of her because Father Mirren, he's playing those little games with Pazuzu over here and crap and everything else. It's just I don't know. I don't know what you do. It's crap. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, sorry, I'm reading.
Oh, sorry. Oh yeah, no, sorry. I hit it. I hit a button on my phone. I said I don't know what you do with this. There's a lot that can be done, but you have to be very careful with it because a lot of people really care about The Exorcist, and there's been so many bad attempts that anytime people hear, "Oh, we're redoing The Exorcist," you automatically get an eye roll, and that's the danger that you get with something like this. And I want it to be good, but considering who's making it, I have zero faith in this film. Which is kind of funny to talk about faith in a possession movie, but that's a pun in and of itself. But hey, it is all it is. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully it comes out in theaters. With it being owned by Universal, it could be a Peacock streaming thing like Halloween Ends was. They could do a same day release or whatever, but I don't know. I don't know what you do. I can't think of a story. Normally I can, maybe instead of a girl getting possessed, it's a parent in this iteration and the daughter has to help save. I don't know what you do with them. I really don't.
Well, the plot details are going to be whatever they are. Like I said, to me, it's all in the presentation, the writing. So because back in the 70s when the original was made, you didn't really have the CGI and the fancy stuff to rely on. It was all acting and dialogue. And I think that's one of the things that made that movie as good as it was. So you're gonna have to come with some strong acting and some strong dialogue. You can sprinkle in some cooler effects and stuff and some of the computer generated stuff, but if you don't really come with a high quality product, it's gonna fall pretty flat. But one of the things that may be working in favor of the film is the fact that fan expectations are so low. I mean, if you go into this, you're thinking, God, this movie's gonna suck, and they put out there like, it may be a shit sandwich, but it may not be a soggy one. You're gonna think to yourself, oh, okay, this is a win. It's like whatever. It's not as bad as I thought it would be, and if that's what I got, then whatever, that's fine.
If it were me, if I were making it this film, I would come at it from a satanic cult angle. There's some kind of cult that's trying to bring the spirit of Pazuzu back, and they use this family, that they're, for the stars that you're just talking. If I were doing an Exorcist film, that's how I'd do it. Because you can just remake it, but I don't think you're gonna do well if you're just trying to remake the first one. And it's so iconic, you almost have to. It's not like Halloween that's been made. Well, it's similar, but it's not. Obviously, there's been 13 Halloween films, and there's been a bunch of different Exorcist stuff, but it's different in the way of, with Michael in a Halloween film, all you have to, or Jason or any unnamed slasher, just give us a good slasher film. Exorcist is just as much of a psychological thriller as it is a horror film. So you're playing on a different set of rules here that you got to operate under, and that's big shoes to fill. So if they can get Linda Blair, like I said, they're bringing the mom back. You can't get Father Mirren back, but they're going to play off of it. So good luck, David Gordon Green. You ruined the Halloween trilogy. Don't fuck up The Exorcist. God help us. Jesus.
Don't hold back, Tex. Tell us how you really feel.
I would love to be able to fail upwards on that level, because he could teach a master class in how to fail and get more jobs at this point. I mean, he went from writing schlocky weed movies with Seth Rogen and all those idiots to getting to make Michael Myers films, and now he gets The Exorcist. I mean, what are we going to give him next? I mean, just give him all the films at this point.
No doubt. But, go down the comments below. Let us know what you guys think about the idea of an Exorcist reboot. Again, I don't know. I need more. I need more information before I can make any kind of an assertion as to whether I think this is going to be good or not. But it is what it is, as they say. So we're gonna see. This time, look, we're less than a year away from getting on here and doing a review of this thing. It's supposed to come out October 2023. So we're not that far off from being able to pick this thing apart one by one and figure out whether it's any good or not.
Well, this coming Halloween, it's going to be a good Halloween month. We're getting a new Saw movie. Saw X is going to be out the 27th of October, which I cannot wait for. They're bringing back Tobin Bell. It's going to be back supposedly between the second and third films. We're getting an Exorcist movie. So we've already got, unless something gets moved, which I hope it doesn't Saw-wise, there's going to be some heavy hitters coming out for Halloween this coming year. So, hopefully I'm going to go against what my gut's telling me. I'm going to be excited about this Exorcist film. Just a smidge, just about that much. Not much, just a little bit. And hope we have another good Halloween film we can go see. Maybe an Exorcist film on Halloween, since, technically the first one was allegedly on Halloween, but it wasn't really. But, I don't know. We'll see what happens with it.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, and it looks like Donald Trump has officially announced that he's running for president, which should come as a shock to absolutely nobody. Okay, so that's what's blowing up my phone right now. So, yeah. From one horror movie to another horror movie that is another election cycle.
Do I need to go put my red? Do I need to go get my red hat out and put it on for the show now? Is that what all these Trump idiots are going to do?
I don't know. Maybe. The biggest non-piece of news that everybody was waiting for the last 24 hours.
Shocker, right? Trump's running for president, and guess what? The sky's blue and the water's wet. What's that?
Yeah, News 11. But, yeah, again, I need more information. I need more information before I start to get too upset or too excited about this. But it's coming. Like I said, we're less than a year away. So this time next year, our review for The Exorcist reboot is going to be up on the channel. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell, stick around, because we'll be going after it when it comes out. I have a feeling that's going to be. I have a feeling me, Jeremy, and Tex are going to have a whole lot to say about that when it comes out sometime this year.
Maybe we can make it a Halloween tradition that I just cuss David Gordon Green's even very existence on every Halloween going forward.
Hey, who knows what other movies he's signed on to do right now? I mean, is he doing a Friday the 13th remake? Is he doing? Is he taking on Freddy?
If they give him Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I will find him and handle him personally. God help him. But,
I will do the dance of death with the chainsaw over your body.
I will wear his skin. I will go that far.
I don't wear your skin as my face.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
No doubt. But, go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think. Moving on to our final topic, and we're going to get off all the heavy talk about the DCEU. They now finally have some direction. Last Thursday, new DC film co-heads James Gunn and Peter Safran had a virtual town hall with Warner Discovery investors and said that they have laid out a long-term plan for the franchise, which has stumbled badly at times during its existence. Gunn has inside knowledge of how to build a cinematic universe after spending time with Marvel. And while his promotion to the head of all things DC shocked some, many feel this is just what was needed to save the brand. Tex, they did say that he's got a 10 to 12 year plan, him and Safran, all laid out on paper as to how they want to approach things. What are some of your thoughts on what could be coming for the future of the DCEU?
I like James Gunn. He wrote Dawn of the Dead 04, and he's already done a Superman movie in Brightburn. He just did an evil Superman movie, which I love, by the way. You should go watch that movie. I'm not as crazy about the Guardians of the Galaxy films. I'm not crazy about his Suicide Squad. I don't like jokey James Gunn, I like the other version of him. Now, what I'm hoping for here is, yes, he does have a visual eye. He's worked in that Marvel landscape. He knows how to fill out a universe. I just hope every movie doesn't feel like it's a James Gunn movie. That's my one worry and concern about this. I really hope he takes a Kevin Feige seat and kind of stands back and lets the creators create and just doesn't make everything as jokey and non-serious as some of his other work. But I do love the direction. It's a bright future. As a DC fan, like Jeremy says, it's kind of like being a Cleveland Browns fan. Every year, you know, it's a rebuilding year. But I don't know if, I mean, obviously you shoot for a 10-year plan, but let's get our feet under us before we start running. You know, get Batman, get Superman going, get your Wonder Woman, get us a good Green Lantern. There's so many good DC characters. We don't need to worry about side characters and everything else. Let's just, you know, start with Man of Steel 2. Nail that down. Bring back Ben Affleck Batman. You know, obviously they're going to do the Pattinson Batman stuff. I think they said that Matt Reeves had a trilogy planned out. And I did read that Zaslav only wants one live universe Batman going, which I'm in favor of, because we don't need 3 of them. That's ridiculous. But, you know, if it were me, I'd probably just blow it all up and restart. But they're not going to do that, even though Black Adam didn't do great at the box office, I don't think. I heard it didn't even get 400 million or some nonsense. But you got to start simple. Like I said, start with Man of Steel 2. Give us the Man of Tomorrow. Bring in Steven Spielberg. What better way to start off your 10-year plan than with Steven frickin' Spielberg? You know, that's going to get you a lot of good faith. So I'm confident. I'm hopeful. This is great news. I like what Zaslav has done. I think James Gunn is a smart decision as long as we don't let him make everything Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's my biggest worry. So we'll see what comes of it, though.
Well, here's what's interesting to me is one of the things that got kind of buried in this article, it didn't get talked about much, is what you said already. He said no more of this 4 Batman nonsense, which I had said for a long time now. I was like, I don't think it makes much sense to have 4 different iterations of a character floating around on screen. It dilutes your own brand. Like if you have a bottle of the best scotch in the world, would you water it down to make it 4 bottles of scotch? No, it would ruin the flavor. You just have that one bottle of scotch that is awesome instead of trying to thin it out. That's what I haven't understood. Now, I mean, a part of it is a byproduct of them kind of hitting the jackpot like they did with the Joker movie with Joaquin Phoenix, which was a very good movie. Not a good comic book movie, but a very good character study.
Right.
And I think that they thought that it would be okay to have these separate pocket universes of things going on, but I don't think it's going to work. And that's something I've been saying for a while now, is I didn't want to have multiple Batman. And the fact that they've already come to an agreement that we're not going to have all this, that's awesome, because I think that's a great idea. I don't want to have 9 million Batman running around out there. Number 2 is I wonder what Batman they're going to keep going forward. Because remember, we've got 3 of them running around out there right now that we're going to be seeing on screen in the next year and a half. We've got Ben Affleck coming back in some way, shape, or form for this Flash movie. We've got Michael Keaton coming back in some way, shape, or form for this Flash movie. And apparently Michael Keaton is going to be playing a role in the DCU moving forward as Bruce Wayne / Batman. So we don't yet know what that is. And we've got Robert Pattinson's Batman out there, which I really liked Robert Pattinson Batman. I like it as a standalone thing and not part of a Justice League, whatever. To me, that's exactly what it was. A lot closer to what I got from like the Christian Bale stuff. It's like he didn't have to worry about figuring out how to name drop Superman or how to mention that you met Wonder Woman. You just concentrate on what's going on in Gotham, the shit that's happening around Bruce Wayne. So I like the movie, but if this is the way it's going to be, you can only have one of them going forward. And I'm interested to see which one they choose, because I've heard people talk about how they're going to try to fold in Joaquin Phoenix's Joker to Robert Pattinson's Batman. I don't want them to do that either. I don't even really want a Joker sequel. I think that movie was a fantastic piece of art on its own. I don't want to sequelize it. I'm afraid it's going to thin it out a little bit. It's going to make it not hit the same. Leave it alone. You made the Mona Lisa. You can't repaint a sequel to the Mona Lisa. Just don't do it. But But I mean, I do like the idea of somebody with some vision shepherding us to a decent Justice League movie, because I love what Marvel's done. Marvel's done some amazing shit. And I know there's a lot of people out there that hate Marvel because Marvel's popular and makes a bunch of money, and people out there just like to hate what's popular and what's winning. But I mean, you can't deny it. The storytelling they've done over the course of the last 20-something movies and 13 years has been phenomenal. It's been something that's never been done in cinematic history before. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't do something at least that good with the DC characters, because let's face it, as much as I like the Marvel stuff, Batman and Superman, the two best comic book characters ever.
100%, yeah.
And it's not even close. I mean, yeah, Iron Man might be more popular now. Captain America might be more popular now.
Nobody knew who he was when that first movie came out. Nobody had it.
For the last 60 years, comic books have been driven by Batman and Superman. The entire industry has been driven by those two characters. And while they've had good iterations, I mean, Superman obviously with Christopher Reeve, Batman obviously with Michael Keaton, and you know, stuff with Christopher Nolan, things like that. They haven't really they haven't really tried to like do a Justice League thing. Marvel gave them some hope that it could work. They tried it and they dropped the ball. But one of the things I like Gunn's propensity for dark storytelling, because one of the things that I like about DC is that whereas I like that Marvel keeps things kind of airy. I mean, they have, you know, Tony Stark cracking jokes and the whole thing with I get that reference or I didn't get that reference from Captain America, things like that.
Captain America, yeah.
Some of the Taika Waititi stuff, I mean, I get it, even though his shtick wore kind of thin, really thin in the last Thor movie. But I like the fact that DC has embraced its dark nature. That all of these movies, they have very dark color palettes, dark tones, dark dialogue. There's a couple of jokes in there to give you that moment of levity to set up the serious moment. But I mean, they don't go for the comedy the way that Marvel has done. They let you look. Batman's killing people. Superman's killing people. I mean, it's a dark universe, and I'm glad that they're finally embracing that. And I think Gunn can do that, because you mentioned Suicide Squad. That's a pretty dark movie. I mean, it's the Suicide Squad. All but 3 of them die at the end of the movie. So I mean, that in and of itself is fairly dark. Then you mentioned Brightburn, which to me is, as much as I love the superhero genre, it was at a point getting a little tired just seeing the good guy fly into frame, beat up the supervillain, and then, you know, scoop Lois Lane up and then fly off into the sunset. And then the last scene of the movie is somebody standing in the superhero pose against an American flag waving in the background with his cape, everything, and that's where it ends. I like seeing this darker. That's why I like The Boys. It's not a typical it's not a typical superhero movie. It asks these questions. What if these guys are really psychotic? What if Kal-El comes to Earth and instead of being a good boy, he's mentally broken? What if this goes terribly, terribly wrong, and not everybody who comes through from Krypton is Superman? But so I love, and I think James Gunn is the guy, because Gunn's got a background in horror as well.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I was saying. James Gunn's breakout was in 2004 when he wrote Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. He wrote that script, so he knows. And I mean, James Gunn wrote and directed Brightburn. He's done some darker films. He's done some darker stuff, and it's. I mean, you nailed it on the head. I mean, DC, they're the darker studio, where Marvel's bright and colorful. DC tells a different kind of story. That's why I love them over Marvel. I've always been a DC guy.
And you even see Marvel trying to take a little bit of a turn with that, because I mean, Doctor Strange: The Multiverse of Madness it's leaving label as a horror movie, so they're trying to go dark. And there's some stuff
how they had Sam Raimi come in and direct it, for God's sake.
Yeah. So I mean, even they're trying to embrace the darker parts of their lineage. So maybe it's time for if that's what they want, maybe it's time to hit them with it.
Obviously, we've talked about the Flash film, and even before I was on your channel here, you were talking about the problems the Flash film has, but the opportunity they have with it is they can do the Flashpoint story, and it sounds like they have. So they're literally sitting at they have the reset button in their hand. They can make DC going forward whatever they want it to be by the end of that film. No matter what you think about the film, and I've made it very clear my thoughts about Ezra Miller and all his bull crap, but that him to the side of this you've got a semi-clean start. If it makes no sense, Pattinson's Batman and his world does not fit with the DCEU. It doesn't fit with Henry Cavill Superman and Aquaman and all of the big supernatural stuff, because Matt Reeves, he's in his own little world. They literally just copied The Dark Knight, and they're off over here on the left doing their own thing. So you can't make him your normal one Batman. I got a feeling Pattinson will make his trilogy of Bat films, and he'll go away just like Christian Bale did. Now you've got Ben Affleck, which my favorite, but that even being said, you've brought back Henry Cavill Superman. You still have Jason Momoa as Aquaman and Wonder Woman. She's getting a third film too. It makes complete sense to bring back Affleck. And let's not forget, he came back and he shot scenes for Flash and Aquaman too. So it's obvious they've got some kind of plans for Affleck going forward. He's still young enough. He fits the role. A lot of people love him. In my eyes, it's either Ben Affleck or you kill all three of them off and you have a new Batman, because Keaton's too old, Pattinson's in his own world, and Batfleck or nothing at this point. So I don't know what you do with it. There's 1,000 different ways they can go with this, and with this whole Flashpoint paradox thing they're dealing with, they could literally go any way that they want. And they wouldn't have brought back Henry Cavill for the post-credit scene in Black Adam if they weren't going to do something with that version of the characters that we've already seen. So it's got to be Affleck. I mean, there's no way around it in my eyes. So I don't know. I'm hopeful that Affleck stays around and maybe we get that Batman movie that he wanted to make. That could be really cool. So,
well, we already have one thing that works in that favor: the fact that while the relationship between Warner Brothers and Affleck had been so irreparably damaged that he just bailed,
right,
that now Zaslav is in control, and apparently they had completely moved off of Henry Cavill, and Zaslav is the one that reached out to Cavill and said, "Hey, let's talk before we complete this break. Let's talk." And now Henry Cavill is in Black Adam in that cameo scene. Now he's apparently going to get his own a second film. So maybe Zaslav is like, you know what? Maybe me and Affleck sit down and have a talk, and maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. We say, hey, we think, because look, I still think there's a lot of things in the DCU up to this point that are worth saving. I think there's stuff that you could build a universe on.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, and now that you've got Zack Snyder is gone, and some of the toxicity that has kind of been exposed that he was bringing to the whole thing. I mean, feel sorry for the loss and everything that his family experienced, but at the same time, there's other things that can't be explained. But I feel like Zaslav is in a better position than Warner Brothers was previously to say, hey, hold on, let's get the good stuff, let's mold that into a cornerstone of a universe moving forward. And let's see what we got, because look, the Flash is supposed to kind of reset the DCEU anyway. So if that movie comes out, whenever the hell it's going to come out, if it comes out at all in the spring or whatever, and it does what they wanted it to do initially, which is kind of like give us a fresher canvas to paint the entire DCEU, then maybe it works. I don't know. I think it could.
Well, if they're going to copy Marvel's formula, and I think that's exactly why they hired James Gunn, bringing in one of the directors that Marvel has made so much money off of, I would literally just do it like Marvel did. Do it in phases. Give us a couple Batman movies, a couple Superman films. Do a Justice League. Give us Wonder Woman, Flash. Give us an Aquaman without Amber Heard. Build up. There's so many big characters. Just in the Batman world, just look at Batman. You've got Batman, Robin. You can start off with Dick Grayson Robin, then he can turn into Nightwing. You can bring in Jason Todd. You can kill him off, he becomes Red Hood, my favorite DC character. You can bring in Tim Drake, you got Batgirl. You can give us a better version of Batwoman. So just in the Batman world alone, there's so much meat on the bone. Then you've got Superman in his world. There is 100 years or whatever it is of DC stories that you can build from, and you can fill out a world with DC. The problem will be getting the stigma away from, it's a DC movie. People need to start thinking about DC films like they do Marvel films. And I mean, even Black Panther 2 is not doing as well as the first one did or anything else. What you also have to take into account is there kind of burnout on the superhero genre too. But that's a different topic for another day. But I don't know what you do. You map out a 10-year plan because Zack Snyder did the same thing. I think he did like a 6-year plan or something, and then you just adjust accordingly. But Zaslav has really impressed me with what he's doing. I do agree with you. I don't think we need Joker 2. I don't want to see Joaquin Phoenix Joker in anything else. I don't want to see Pattinson in anything else besides his own world. Give us a full-fledged comic book DC world like Marvel did with their films, and you'll be successful. It's not that hard. I don't see why people have to make it hard, but what the hell.
Yeah, I don't know. Zaslav did what I said they should have done with DC a long time ago. He said, you know what, let's just use Marvel's template. Marvel, look, if you want to copy Marvel at anything, it's going to be putting out good product. You don't want to copy Marvel like shot for shot. You don't want to turn Batman into Iron Man. But I mean, the way that they've structured their world, you could definitely use that as a structure to build your world and tell your different stories. I don't understand why DC didn't do that a long time ago. Zaslav probably thought the same thing I thought. He's like, these guys are over here doing it right.
Well,
why aren't we figuring out some of the things that they did right, incorporate them into what we want to do, and then we can do it right too? You don't have to be Marvel. You just have to be successful. You have to give good product, and these guys are giving good product. So why not take a couple lessons from them?
Well, they jumped the gun too soon. I mean, I think it was Quentin Tarantino. I was reading something from the other day, and he was talking about how there should have been like 3 Batman movies and 3 Superman films before you ever had Batman fight Superman, which as much as Batman v Superman is my favorite superhero film of all time. I adore that version of Batman. Give me some Dark Knight Batman all day. Dark Knight Returns Batman, excuse me. But, you got to plan these things out. And, I mean, we also have to look at who was leading DC at the time. You had Walter Hamada, that he just did not know what he was doing. He was good on the horror stuff, but he was not good with the DC stuff. Now, thank God that he's gone. We've got Zaslav leading. We've got James Gunn here and his partner. I'm confident with what they're doing. I really like the way that this is going. I like that Zaslav is cutting the fat, making event cinema. I really like that term. Make everything big. Because let's be honest, even Marvel these days is not event cinema. It's, every 2 months we get a Marvel movie. They're becoming very mundane and very just normalized. So let's get back to special. That's what I like that they're doing. And hopefully James Gunn has that mindset. We'll see what happens with it.
Yeah, I definitely agree they need to see how much shit they put out.
Right.
Because I'm getting a little with just the sheer volume of everything they're putting out. It's got me a little concerned.
Well, even in Black Panther 2, and obviously we'll talk about it Thursday, but it didn't feel, once you get past the memorializing Chadwick Boseman, it felt just like another Marvel film. And I think they're just giving us too much of it. And, how I've said, not every movie needs a universe. Well, not every side character in a comic book needs to be focused on. There's a reason why they're side characters and not lead characters. And when you replace a lead character, you're not going to be as successful. So, I don't know. Give us, like I said, get the Trinity going. Give us a solid 1 Batman, 1 Superman, 1 Wonder Woman. Get that Trinity nailed down. Fill out your Justice League. You've already, the way it looks, Jason Momoa is not going anywhere because he's actually a cool Aquaman. But, give us another good Wonder Woman film like the first one. 1984 sucked. I hated that movie. But, hopefully in a few years we'll be saying in James Gunn we trust, like you say in Kevin Feige we trust. I guess we'll see what happens with it. But, I don't know.
Yeah, go down in the comments below. Let us know what you guys think. The 10 to 12 year plan that has been laid out by by James Gunn and Peter Safran. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic.
I'd love to see it.
I think there's finally some real leadership over there now.
I do too.
For all the talk that we've had about the axe of Zaslav swinging and just chopping everything off, that I said a long time ago, there's a reason for that. He's bringing it all back into center so that when it starts to grow back out, it can be in a way that is good for the brand, good for the company, good for the quality of the product, and not just all over the place. I mean, there's a reason why you go up to a beautiful rose bush and you nip off the dead flowers, you nip off the dead branches and stuff like that. It's so that all the good stuff can go to the things that need to flourish, and that's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. So I'm optimistic about what's going on over at DC right now. But before we get out of here, let's go over and see what some of you guys are saying in the chat. TSS says, I like the Harry Potter films. My favorite was Prisoners of Azkaban and Goblet of Fire. I like Goblet of Fire.
Azkaban was good too. I forgot that one. That was a good one.
Yeah, Goblet of Fire to me is the pivotal point of that entire franchise, because as soon as Cedric Diggory dies, the entire tone of that changes. Yes,
that's dark. I loved it. Yeah.
Let's see. He also says that. He says nope is his answer. Probably talking about the Exorcist. He says I agree. They're going to have their hands full. The biggest problem they will have is Exorcist still holds up today. It does hold up today. Yeah. It's a very psychological horror movie, and
you can still watch it today. Yeah.
Yeah, there are different genres of psychological horror. There's psychological. There's horror comedy, like I consider Scream kind of a horror comedy, to be honest. Things like Lost Boys, I think, is a horror comedy. Then you got the straight slashers, stuff like that. But it's of the more cerebral, the psychological horrors. This is it. You're definitely gonna have to come strong. You're definitely gonna have to bring it.
Right.
He also says that he's over Saw big time.
Saw, no. Saw's my favorite overall horror franchise, number one for me. I mean, Zombies Halloween 1 is my favorite individual film, but the Saw franchise is my go-to. I love it.
Yeah, Derek Hans joins us, says, "Wow, I was so wrong on The Rock being big time for DC." You know what? I haven't seen Black Adam yet. It's something I need to go see.
It's action heavy with a very weak villain. It's a fun time, but it's very mid, I guess.
The general consensus from a lot of the reviews that I've seen are that the movie is exciting to watch, but has like terrible story and writing. And
there is no story. The only story is about The Rock and his son. That's pretty much the whole story. There's not a lot of meat on that bone. It's like I said, it's almost as if like The Rock pulled from his wrestling roots and just wanted to give you a bunch of action, which the action looks good, but it's not memorable. And like I said, the villain is very weak. They could have did a lot better. So.
Derek Kent disagrees with me. He says he thinks Phoenix would have brought a whole new level to Batman. If you think about it, if you think about the one scene where Joaquin Phoenix's character Arthur goes to the gates of Wayne Manor and sees the 11-year-old Bruce. Right. I mean, so it's going to be at least 10 or 12 years before Bruce starts being Batman. That means that this guy who's already in his around 40 is going to be in his 50s to even be the Joker to the new Batman. I know there's a time thing that doesn't work out. But on top of that, the way you made that movie, The Joker, it wasn't about Batman. It was about the Joker. And
that movie,
by flipping it to make him an actual supervillain, I think you would do that character a disrespect and not. Because then you are trying to make a comic book movie out of something that wasn't a comic book movie. Because I don't think Joker was a comic book movie. I think that was a character study. Look, Bruce Wayne may have been in it. Joker may have been in it, but it was not about supervillains and Batmobiles and shit like that. It was about this man's descent into madness. It was a very cerebral movie. So I don't think that version of Joker works very well for a Batman.
The Joker film in and of itself, I've said this since I saw it. I think they had a film about mental health and a guy that was almost like in a American Psycho, Patrick Bateman kind of going crazy way. And to sell it, they attached it to a Warner Brothers DC property with Joker. Because if you can pull out everything DC from that film and it changes nothing. Arkham State Hospital doesn't look like it's this old Gothic kind of thing. You can easily take the Waynes out of it. You can take everything Batman out of that film, and it doesn't change it. I think they just attached it to sell the film, and Joaquin Phoenix just did a hell of a job in the movie. There's no arguing that.
When I reviewed that film, have you ever seen the movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas from the late 80s?
Yes.
I said that the Joker was falling down with face paint. It was an almost identical movie. It was this man on the verge of madness.
Crap, you're right.
It was a man who was on the verge, and then he has that moment where he gets pushed over, like society and all of its chaos just pushes him over, the edge. And so it's almost the exact same movie. Don't get me wrong, I love both movies. Falling Down is one of my favorite Michael Douglas films. It's an amazing film for those of you who haven't seen it. But it really is the exact same film. It is Falling Down with face paint. They're the same character. They're right there on the fence. They can either be saved or slip into madness, and then something happens that just pushes them over the edge, and that's when they go into all the shit they go into. It's the same thing.
I love Joker. He's my second favorite DC character, only behind Red Hood. But one of the things I like about the Joker is the pale skin. As great as Heath Ledger was in Dark Knight with the Joker makeup, to me, that was a one-off thing. Joker should have that pale skin. It shouldn't be war makeup. It shouldn't be something that he puts on. It should be there all. The pale skin, much not like the red and the black around the eyes. He can do that himself. That's fine. But I want a comic-accurate Joker. Give me the Joker from the Arkham Asylum video games. That's what I want to see in film. I was one of the people that actually liked Jared Leto's Joker, except for the face tattoos. I thought that was a bit much.
I still want to see more of Jared Leto's Joker. That take on it was interesting, and I don't think we're ever going to be able to fully realize it, which is unfortunate.
I would love to see more of a Jared Leto Joker. I have liked him since Suicide Squad, and I wish that they would release the Ayer cut, because allegedly there's a lot. Apparently, they cut out enough of his Joker and Harley stuff to make a whole film. That's what's been said since, for years now. But I want to see more Jared Leto, less Joaquin Phoenix. And I'm in the minority on that probably. But I think that would be better going forward.
Yeah, Derek says, no, I clicked the wrong one. He says Superman never had that ultimate villain. Well, I mean, he's had a couple. He's had Lex Luthor's not exactly a
Lex Luthor, Doomsday, Brainiac, Bizarro. Superman's got some of the best villains, some that we've never seen on the big screen. I'd love to see Brainiac. You could do a whole trilogy of just Brainiac movies. I think that'd be great. And Man of Steel 2, that's the one I pitched when we talked about it last week with Steven Spielberg. I said, give me a Brainiac movie with him. I think he could nail it. I think it'd be cool.
Yeah. I like I said, I'm optimistic about where DC's at right now. But it's going to take a while for this thing to shake out. I mean, look, the last couple of movies, Aquaman was good, Shazam was good, things like that. So I mean, they've won more than they've lost the last 3 or 4 movies, which is a positive.
Right.
But now you got to get on a good. Marvel was on like a 27 movie win streak at one point, and that's kind of where DC needs to get. They need to go a solid 4, 5, 6 movies where they just blow people's minds and blow expectations out of the water for people to really get excited about these things. Because nobody gets excited to go see a DC movie right now the way they get excited to go see a Marvel movie. And even now, after Marvel's spit out a couple of, not I want to call them duds, but they're a little rudderless right now too. But people still anticipate going to see a Marvel movie, whereas DC, they're like, you guys haven't really given me a reason to get excited from the very beginning. So whatever.
DC needs to copy Marvel's model of how they release films. Don't do it as much, but keep the darker tone. That's the thing that DC has, and they do it better. If you keep your tone of DC films, but the interconnectivity of a Marvel universe, I think that's a winning strategy. Because, I mean, it's been proven people like, which is funny because when Batman v Superman came out, oh, God, it's so dark. Why does everything have to blah, blah, blah? But Joker comes out and everybody loves it. They give it $1 billion. So you're both DC movies. Pick a side, people. Which one do you like? Dark or not? You can't have it both ways. But I don't know. It's just, fans are fickle. It's you give them one thing, they're going to want the other. So you do your best, I guess.
Yeah, but that seems like a pretty good place to start wrapping things up. Thank you guys for coming and hanging out again. Kind of a different show than what we were planning on tonight, but we are going to be doing the Black Panther spoiler review on Thursday at our usual time. So come back and check us out as we go through that. I'm pretty sure Cora will be here. Jeremy's going to be here. He's actually probably watching the movie right now as we speak, or at least he's probably getting close to getting out of theater. So we'll be here to talk about that on Thursday. And thank you to my good friend Tex, the Shake from the Lone Star State, for joining us today. What do you got going on the internet right now?
Not much. Whatever we're doing here, that's about it. So you can get me at /Vision on Twitter, and that's about it. So we'll be talking movies.
And as always, you can find me here every Thursday talking about all this cool stuff going on in and around the world. Television, movies, and streaming. I'm actually going to do some gaming tonight. I downloaded Hot Shots Golf from like the early 2000s on PlayStation.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to go play a round of golf. I'll probably go ahead and broadcast that out tonight. So you guys can watch me suck really bad.
I'll have to tune into that.
At a kind of golf that is just slightly better than 16-bit. Still very hard to play. I'm playing a couple of rounds. I'm getting my timing down, but I think I might try to broadcast a little bit.
I'll tell you what, ever since we quit doing Derailed, all you fuckers went to gaming on here. It must have caught fire or something around this place.
I every now and again I'll jump on and game. I'll broadcast some Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever. Right? I mean, me and Jeremy used to go once a week or so, and we get on Call of Duty and go for an hour or so. I don't game the way I used to. It's not my primary thing. So I usually I'm just playing for a half hour or so to unwind, and I'm done. But I've been trying to look around for some of the older games that I can get on PlayStation through the PlayStation Network, just because I'm getting tired of Call of Duty and shit like that. So I'm trying to go back. I've got like Galaga, Dig Dug, Pac-Man, and shit like that on PlayStation. So I like to mess around with those, just so I can feel like I'm 13 again. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to next year when that Texas Chainsaw Massacre game comes out. I might have to do some gaming then myself. So I'm really looking forward to that one. That one's got me excited. So
that should be interesting as hell to watch. But thank you guys for coming and hang out with us tonight. We very much appreciate it. We'll be back here again on Thursday for breakdown, and we'll see you guys then. Adios.
Adios.